India's former Foreign Affairs Minister and a veteran leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party, Sushma Swaraj, has passed away at the age of 67. She was admitted to Delhi's All India Institute of Medical Sciences Hospital after she had suffered a heart attack. Sushma Swaraj served as External Affairs Minister during the 2014 to 2019 term of Prime Minister Modi. She had also served as a minister under former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Sushma Swaraj had a storied career. She also served as the leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha, or the lower house of the Indian Parliament, during the UPA-2 regime. She had a slow but steady rise in politics. She was one of the youngest politicians to be sent to the assembly in the state of Haryana. Her family had a solid RSS background, but her tryst with politics started with socialist parties. Subsequently, she shifted to the BJP. Sushma, in her first avatar, was considered to be a conservative face of the BJP. But there was more to the woman than what politics of her time wanted her to be. Yes, she created moments for the Indian right wing, but her independence as a leader was unquestioned. She was forthright and enjoyed great equation with leaders in the Congress party. When the Congress party was in power for 10 years, Sushma was the only politician who enjoyed a bond with UPA chairperson Sonia Gandhi. Sushma Swaraj was a wonderful orator. Before being taken to AIIMS, or the All India Institute of Medical Sciences Hospital, she had tweeted about the historic decision of the Lok Sabha passing the bill to abrogate Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir. On Tuesday evening, she was admitted to AIIMS, and senior BJP leaders immediately rushed to the hospital. Sushma Swaraj, like Arun Jaitley, is one of the few leaders who connect the old BJP with the new. And Sushma Swaraj's mortal remains have now been kept at the BJP headquarters in India's capital, New Delhi. These are live visuals coming to you as people throng the venue to pay their last respects. Her mortal remains will remain at the BJP headquarters till 3 p.m. in the afternoon, India time. It's about 1:05 p.m. at the moment. So for another 2 hours, it will be there for all to come and pay their respects to Sushma Swaraj, after which the last rites will take place. We have with us on the broadcast Mr. Andrew Whitehead, former journalist with the BBC. Andrew, as always, a pleasure having you here on Wion World is One, but it's a deeply sad moment for Indians across living in India and abroad. The woman who is called the People's Foreign Minister is no more.
Yeah, there was a rare warmth about Sushma Swaraj. There are not many top-level politicians who have that ready smile, that bounce of energy which immediately endears them to people. I mean, I first came across Sushma Swaraj when I was a correspondent in Delhi way back in the mid-1990s, when it was clear that Congress was in gradual decline and the BJP was slowly taking their place. And she was the only woman at the core of the BJP nationally at that time. And I remember a lot of the BJP national leaders were slightly suspicious of the international media. They thought that the international media didn't quite understand them and misrepresented them. And it may be Sushma Swaraj thought that as well, but she made the effort to reach out. She was always accessible. And as I say, there was something about her, amid a sort of slightly, sometimes austere group of men. She stood out for her vivacity, and she had a real personal connect. And
even as we remember her for her personal connect, which she established with her term as a foreign affairs minister, you're talking about a politician who's been prolific from a very young age. Her contributions as an information and broadcasting minister to the country is also immense.
That's right. I mean, she began her career in Haryana state, and she was, I think, at that time the youngest state minister. Then she became quite a senior figure in the BJP in their opposition years in the 90s and the Narasimha Rao era. And then when Vajpayee became Prime Minister, he brought her in as Information and Broadcasting Minister. And of course, under Narendra Modi, she's had a much more senior post, that of External Affairs Minister. And I mean, there have been quite a number of women who've been prominent in the BJP, but particularly in the States. She was a rare figure at that time for being a very prominent woman in the BJP right at the centre in Delhi.
And not many knew that Sushma Swaraj, apart from her ability as an orator, par excellence in Hindi, could speak Kannada fluently because of the campaign that she was involved in Bellary.
That's right, and when I've been reading the obituaries, which I've been doing over the last few hours, I've found out quite a lot about her that I didn't know. I didn't know, for example, that initially she and her husband-to-be were allies and associates of George Fernandez. I mean, that's something that you wouldn't necessarily guess at first glance. So she was a woman with many different aspects to her. She was much broader in her range of interests and her background than many politicians. And I think that also made her rather special. And you can see from the way in which people have responded to the very sad news of her death, that she touched people in a way that many politicians simply don't.
And Andrew, at this moment, we were just recovering from the loss of Sheila Dikshit, who was a three-time Delhi Chief Minister. Sushma Swaraj was a one-time Delhi Chief Minister, and that loss has come a little too quick after that.
Well, that's right, and two really well-regarded chief ministers, both women, they're from different parties. Sushma Swaraj's time as chief minister in Delhi was quite short. She was broadly somebody who was much more on the national rather than the Delhi, the regional stage. But she did make her mark, and it was part of the BJP, in a sense, politically digging itself in Delhi. But I think what she'll be remembered for more than any other, the office that she held that she'll be remembered for is, of course, External Affairs Minister, where her use of social media, her empathy, her reaching out, her support for Indians in distress around the world was something that we hadn't ever seen before from an External Affairs Minister.
And that essentially will be the legacy that she will be leaving, in a sense, that, when it comes to the government being an interface for the common people to deal with in the modern world, in the world of social media and social networks, that is how it's done.
Yes, she was accessible. She was somebody that people could relate to. She was somebody who reached out on a personal basis. She was very compassionate. She didn't have the aloofness. She didn't have the airs and graces that many top-ranked politicians have. But she was also important for another reason. She was a link between the BJP of its breakthrough years, when Advaniji and Vajpayee were in charge, and the Narendra Modi era. And there are not very many people who linked those two rather different eras in the BJP's party history.
And the outpouring of grief and support has been immense from the moment news started coming in late last night, post 10 p.m. India time. And these are visuals, ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the BJP headquarters in New Delhi, where people are pouring in to pay the last respects to Sushma Swaraj. Her mortal remains will be kept there till about 3 p.m. India time, after which the final rites ceremony will begin at the Lodhi crematorium. That's what we understand at this point in time. As I continue to bring you this broadcast with Andrew Whitehead, former journalist of the BBC, with us here at the broadcast. Andrew, that image of how emotional Prime Minister Modi got when he reached to pay his last respects is telling of how crucial she was to the first Modi regime.
Yes, she was a very loyal and has remained a very loyal figure. She had, earlier in her career, she had loyalties particularly to L.K. Advani. But as I say, she moved from what you might call the BJP of the 1990s into the Narendra Modi era. Her time as External Affairs Minister wasn't straightforward because Narendra Modi has, and particularly early in his first term, He was his own foreign minister. He was the one who did the globe-trotting. He went to the White House. He went to Downing Street. He went to the big summits. And Sushma Swaraj, rather than feeling, in any way slighted by that, she carved out the role in a rather different way. And she made it something which was a beacon of hope and help to Indians around the world who were in difficulties of any sort. And that played into her personal strengths as well, because she did have this effervescence, this energy. People liked being in her company. She had a very warm smile. And at the top level of politics, that is not common.
Andrew Whitehead, former journalist of the BBC, joining us as we continue to bring you coverage of last respects being paid to Sushma Swaraj, referred to as the People's Minister. The final rites will take place after 3 p.m. But for now, Andrew Whitehead, thank you so much for joining us here on the broadcast.